The Soviet army moved west, and soon the field hospital crossed the German border. "Dear Lev," Betty wrote in a letter. "I have news to tell you. Some of it is good and some is bad. I wish you were here, that you could comfort me. I really need you. Now I know how my sister died a terrible death. I see death so much, but not like that. The Belarusian guerrillas shot her to death. I'm so lonely. You are the only one I have. I hope you find your family, and we live all together. I already forgot how it feels to have a family. I hope for a family, and I have something else to tell you. I'm in trouble. I'm pregnant. It seemed unreal at first, but then I realized that it's for real. I hoped for a miscarriage because I go to the battlefields and carry the wounded for long distances to the hospital shed, but it has not happened. I'm pregnant, and I feel the baby. It moves inside my tummy. I hope you don't change your mind to marry me. I'm sure it's a boy because he is so active. He is a real fighter. I hope he looks like you, and I hope that we'll have a chance to watch him grow up happy, without a war. It's so silly to hope for something like that, but I hope anyway. I hope he grows up and you can take him to a ship that you've built. I know it's too much to wish for, but I really want it to happen. I love you, and I hope. Betty. Even though Betty was pregnant, she was not dismissed from the army for another couple of months. The Soviet army prevailed, taking over one town after another, but the Germans fought to the death, in agony, and the casualties in the Soviet army were high. Betty kept living among death, saving soldiers' lives and having no perspective of a future, even though another life grew inside her. She kept spending all her money, paying locals to take care of the wounded. She kept working around the clock, having no mercy on herself or her unborn child. A battle lasted for too long. It was already a long time since anybody brought in new wounded, even though the sound of the battle didn't fade away. There were no soldiers to do this. The surviving soldiers defeated the Germans, and Betty knew that there was a lot of wounded lying on the battlefield, waiting for help. She ran to the field to do the job. Cries for help sounded everywhere. She bent down near the first soldier she found and checked his wounds. He won't survive, she thought. I'll be back, she lied, giving him hope, and ran to another one. This one bled badly. The lower part of his leg had been ripped off, but otherwise, he was in a normal condition. Betty instinctively kept her head down. The explosions were around and above her. She removed his belt from around his waist as he roared in pain. Her hands moved fast. She fastened the belt tight around the remaining part of the leg to stop the bleeding as he groaned again. Betty lowered herself to the ground and felt as the baby kicked inside her, as if warning her, "Please be careful." That should have been a pleasant experience, but Betty ignored it. She stood on her knees and applied her entire force to turn and mount the soldier on her back. He was big and heavy. She pushed herself up from her knees, holding the man on her back, and walked as fast as she could toward the field hospital, dragging her legs heavily. A bomb exploded right next to Betty. She and the wounded soldier were pushed up into the air, thrown, and smacked against a tree. The soldier hit the tree first, and Betty fell on him, crushing his lower jaw with the back of her head. The world suddenly became silent. The wounded soldier with a broken bloody face yelled something, but she didn't hear any sound. How could this be? Betty thought. The world spun around. The acrid smoke stung her vision and burned her mouth and nose. Tears rolled down her cheeks. She was disoriented and unable to move. The soldier crawled closer to her and yelled something into her face. "I don't understand you," she said, but didn't hear her own voice. "How can I understand you if your jaw is broken?" she thought, as he grabbed her hand and pulled. He crawled, pushing his body with his healthy leg, dragging the pregnant nurse after him. Betty passed out, but felt someone grab her from the ground. It was Lev. She saw him. He smiled at her, and she could read his lips, "My dear talisman. I will love you always." But she couldn't hear. Lev carried her in his arms, as Betty saw her mother and father. Ada bent down, talking to her. "Your baby survived. Betty. Do you hear me? Talk to me, Betty. Blink your eyes, if you hear me. Your baby survived. Show me that you understand. Betty. Wake up. Betty." Ada disappeared. "No. Ada. Come back. Ada." Betty called, and heard her voice. "Doctor, she is awake." The doctor lowered his head. "Hey. Do you hear me?" "Yes," she said, and heard her own voice as if it sounded from the underground. "Good. Good. I thought we lost you, sweetheart. The nurse can't die. Do you understand?" He smiled. "Doctor," Betty called. "How is that soldier that was with me?" He laughed. "Now she is back. Didn't I tell you what she was going to ask me first?" "He is okay, Betty. We sent him to the main hospital." "Am I wounded?" "No, but you sustained contusions to your entire body. So, just take it easy. Betty, I don't want to transfer you to a main hospital." "Thank you. So, I'll order you to stay in bed for a few days, until I release you." He loved the girl and took care of her himself, not trusting anybody. "Also, I have something for you, sweetheart. Here." He gave her an envelope. It was a letter from Lev. "My dear talisman. Of course I'll marry you, I told you that long ago. And you said, yes. Remember? I can't believe that you wanted to kill my son. I want you to get out of there as soon as you can. I don't want my son to be born in Germany. I want him to be born in Leningrad. Go to Leningrad, to my apartment. My brother, Joseph, lives there with his family. They are very good people. They'll take care of you. When I come back from the war, we'll live there as one big family, as you wish. I'm so sorry about your sister. I know how you feel. I lost David, and I can't believe that I'll never see him again. We don't even have his grave. I wrote letters everywhere, and there is no trace of my parents, Yalta, or David's wife, Faga, with children. Well, she is not his wife anymore, but widow. I'm so sad to say so. I wrote to Sarah, Faga's sister, to Birobidzhan. I hoped that they might evacuate to the Far East and live with her, but she wrote back to me that she hadn't received anything from them for already 4 years. I fear the worst. Sarah also wrote to me that she became a grandma. She has a grandson. Do you remember, I told you about them? They have a son, Daniel. He was not drafted to the war because he was underage. And now I found out that he is already a father. The math doesn't work for me, but regardless, we need kids, especially boys, because a lot of men were killed during this bloody war. I hope we have a son too. I'm sure that it's a boy. I can't wait to see you again, my love. Now, I have more incentives to come home sooner. I can't wait to hug you. I can't wait to become a father. I'm dreaming about being a father. Isn't it crazy? I promise you that my boy and I will build a boat together, and then we'll take you to the sea and go fishing. We'll be good pals. I'm thinking about his name. I thought about naming him after your father, Abraham, or any other name that starts with an A. What do you think? Love you always. Please write to me. I'm waiting. Lev. In a couple of weeks, Betty's stomach got too big, and she asked the doctor to let her go to Leningrad. Betty, you don't have to go. You'll be better off with us. Here, we have food and medication. You earn a good salary. You have so many friends here. Stay with us. I'm worried about you. The frequent headaches that harass you so badly and the injuries you sustained could affect your baby. Nobody can take care of you better than I. Please stay with us. Look, the war is almost over. We'll take care of you here. Leningrad is ruined. You have nobody there to take care of you. Lev said that his brother and his family live there. Who could take care of me better than my family? There were just 3 weeks left before the due day when Betty packed her few things and left the field hospital.